Hello, 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 and welcome to another riveting episode of Future Award winning podcast. Let me tell you something. I am your host, Dale Tree. So, it's been an okay day for me. The last two times I've come on here, I told you that I was going to cancel on y'all, and it was, I keep struggling a little bit. But today's been a good day. And we have something very exciting. I know at the end of the last episode, I told y'all something is coming up. But if it falls through, it just falls through. Well, that sentiment still stands. But there's a pot on the stove that's bubbling. Hopefully don't burn up the house. So, anywho, let's get into today's topic. Today's topic is called independence. The road to independence. So, I feel like all of my life I've been not struggling, chat. Well, yeah, struggling. let's just keep it a bean. Struggling for independence. And so this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about my independence journey and where I want to be, how far I've come, and just give a little inspiration for the girls who are struggling with independence, and the guys and the days. So, without further ado, let's get into my upbringing a little bit. So, I have a confession to make. I'm spoiled, and I'm not even gonna hold you. I used to resent that label because to me, when people say spoiled, my brain automatically correlates to meaning a brat, someone who's mean, someone who's, demanding. And I don't think I'm any of those things. I am spoiled. I do like my way, but I'm not bratty and I'm not mean. But yes, I'm spoiled. The kid didn't really. Now I'm not like wealthy or nothing, but I definitely, I don't know the struggle like some people do. And that's okay. And I feel like for us spoiled kids, we need to lean into our spoiledness in a way that's healthy. And part of that is you can acknowledge that you come from a life that is different than other people, but that doesn't mean that you have to be ashamed of that. And I also doesn't mean that you have to lord that over people. I am spoiled, but I'm also kind. I'm also compassionate. I'm also understanding. And I'm also able to put myself in other people's shoes and understand that everyone does not come from the same experience that I do. But yes, I am spoiled. I definitely didn't have to do a lot when I was growing up. I pretty much got most of everything that I wanted, except for, never mind. I was about to go to a whole other thing. But anywho, let me not put that on blast. Anywho, but yeah, as far as like material things, I had every gaming system that I want. I lived a pretty nice, comfortable life. So I definitely didn't really struggle in that way. And so that may have stunted my independence, but life is full of stunts and shows and things like that. So it wasn't until I really got into college that I started to really lean more into independence, because I am what you call a late bloomer. I didn't get my license until I was about 23, maybe. I think it was like 2017, 2018. And part of that, which I think I've shared that story before about how driving is for the birds, and I feel like I was born to be driven, and that may sound very spoiled to me, but also I am also terrified of driving. I do drive, but I was in a car accident when I was younger, not a serious bad car accident, but it just scared me enough to be like, I don't really like driving, and I still don't really like driving. So there were just certain things that also dealing with like crippling insecurity and confidence issues that just has really stunted me in terms of like independence. So when I got to college, I started off with a community college, and that took me 5 years because I was only taking 2 classes at a time. And I always felt like, which you've listened to previous episodes, I talked about feeling behind. And I always felt like I was behind in life when people my age were doing things that I wasn't doing. So in college, I felt like it took me so long to graduate from community college, and then I went to another college, and then I transferred college. But I feel like in college, that's where people really start to get a little bit of independence because they're off from their families. Now, I didn't go off to college, but I definitely, especially when I went to the college where I got my bachelor's degree, I have my associate and bachelor's, 2 degrees, I definitely had to really be on my own a lot. I think when I was, going through elementary school, middle school, high school, you have your parents that help you with homework. But really, once I got in middle school, pretty much, I was really doing my own homework without really any help. I was writing my own papers, and I really was independent in that way. When it came to my schoolwork, I worked hard. I utilized resources like tutors, and I was really on top of that academically. So I really felt like I excelled with my independence with my academic life, but as far as like my personal independence, that's where I falter. And there are things that I really wish that if I could go back, I would be able to really hone in on those more. But the great thing about life, as long as you are alive, there's opportunity. So when we get back, we're going to get into a little of the things that I want to really hone in on in terms of my independence goals. We'll be right back with more of Let Me Tell You Something. Hi, if you've enjoyed what you've heard so far, let's keep this party rolling over across social media platforms. Follow the Let Me Tell You Something Instagram account, Let Me Tell You Something, LemmeTellUSumthing, the letter USUMTHING. Follow me over on TikTok at Deldrin DELDRIANAUTRY, or on X at Latristan1, LATRISTAN1. Now let's get back to more of Let Me Tell You Something. All right, so we're back. So let's talk about the driving thing. So again, I told you I was in a car accident. That's why I don't really like to drive. And I just find that, honestly, people can't drive. When you drive, you have to drive not just for yourself, but for also the safety of the other people on the road. And there are some people who do not subscribe to that rule of thumb when they come to driving. And so for me, I remember the town that is 30 minutes down the interstate. When I first started to drive, I would go to that town pretty frequently. I've been going there my whole life. But when I was driving myself, I would go the back way. And that would take me probably maybe an extra 10 to 15 minutes. But I did that a lot until one day, which if you listen to previous episodes, you just got to jump off the cliff and just go for something. And I got on the interstate. Now, I did get on the wrong way of the interstate and went pretty much in a whole circle, but I did it. And I think for me, when it comes to my independence journey, I've really just had to do things on my own time. And that's what I really want to stress for people. Life is not a sprint. It's a marathon. Go at your own pace. I hope I said that right. I feel like I did. Go at your own pace. You are not in competition with anybody. You are not trying to outdo anybody. I mean, some of y'all may be, but that's not how I live my life. At the end of the day, I live my life for me, Deldrin Autry. And I'm not behind. I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm actually, while there are some things that I wish I had done sooner, like I would never forget, I probably could have taken more classes when I was going to college and graduated sooner, but I feel like I needed to go through that to get to where I am now. And as far as the driving thing, I when I would go to Atlanta, I would not get on the interstate, and now I do get on the interstate. So it's really just been about me going at my own pace. And I think when it comes to independence and being on your own, you're never going to be truly independent because you're going to need people. You're going to have to rely on people. Nobody lives a life, for the most part, where they're just totally independent in terms of like they don't need to rely on nobody. And because life is supposed to be about community and your village. And I understand that not everyone maybe has a village, but I do know we are experiencing the best of life when we have people that we can lean on. And to that, I say my parents are my village. My parents have given me a really beautiful, great life, and I'm so appreciative and loving of my parents because I do still live at home. And I don't care what y'all say. Y'all will never shame me for living at home at my age. And you should not shame anybody for living at home at their age, especially in this economy. Baby, I got a home girl now who on her way back to my mouth. And she'd be like, I don't want to go back there. Well, girl, look, times are hard, so you may have to. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that you're a loser. It doesn't mean any of that. Don't let the internet trick you out of your spot and trick you into being in a position because them people do not matter. Yes, I live at home with my parents. And would I love to have my own place? Absolutely. But I'm also not going to be sitting up in the house paying bills and the only thing that I'm eating is air. No, ma'am. So I would love to move out when I can afford it, because for me, I'm a planner. I like to plan things out, and I'm also strategic. I'm not going to move out for the sake of moving out. And I feel like a lot of people feel that once they turn 18, you have to have all this responsibility on your shoulders. You're supposed to know everything. You're supposed to just go out the nest and just know it all. And 9 times out of 10, well, really 10 times out of 10, you don't. You don't know everything. You are, like, most people are not in a position really to be living on their own. There are people 40, 50, 60 who can barely make ends meet, working 2, 3, 4 jobs. Now, that's a whole nother conversation about our economy and the way that, the money looking a little funny, and the economy is too. But I'm saying is trying to shame people for still living at home will never be a gag to me, because yes, I do still live at home, and I will continue to live at home for as long as my parents allow me to. And I feel like when I decide, or if I decide to have children, I will allow my children to live at home until I feel that they are able to support themselves. Because what is the point of you being out in the world and can't support yourself? And that doesn't mean that you're lazy. It doesn't mean that you have vision. Times is hard, and there are people who are working their butts off, jobs after jobs, school, kids, take care of family, everything under the sun, and still can barely make ends meet. And you mean to tell me that those people are lazy? They don't want it bad enough? Absolutely not. So don't you ever let anyone shame you into thinking that you are not doing enough, or you lazy, or you don't want it bad enough because you live in a home. I'm going to live at home, and I'm going to be comfortable. You can be out there struggling. You can be out there saying, oh, I'm paying the bills, but I can't go nowhere. I can barely eat. That's going to be you and your journey and your ministry, but it ain't going to be mine. Period. Now on that, let's get into something else. Let me check my little points into what I want to get on. Oh, so my goals for my independence. I want to learn how to cook. I want to learn how to cook because I don't know how to cook, and I feel like the world's going to end, and these are the end times. So we need to learn how to cook things. And one of the things that I really want to learn how to cook is Italian food, because I love spaghetti, I love lasagna. And so learning how to cook, I feel like, is an essential task, and it's on my to-do list. I've assisted people in cooking things, but I haven't necessarily cooked for myself a whole meal by myself. And honestly, it's actually, I know I just went on like a whole thing about not being embarrassed, but it actually is quite embarrassing, because I come from a family of cooks, and a lot of my cousins could cook. My dad could cook. My uncles and auntie can cook, and everyone can cook, but I can't cook. So that's just. But yeah, I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna learn how to cook, and I talked about wanting to have my own place. I would love to live in a beautiful apartment, home, space of my own, but also the rent for one person is very expensive, and I refuse to be in a position where I am simply living in my home and can't do anything. Because if you watched or listened to this podcast, you know the kid like to be outside. And so how am I going to be outside if all the money is tied up in bills? So yes, save. If you can live at home with your parents, that is a blessing. I feel like the real gag is, and this may be a little controversial, I feel like a lot of y'all just mad because your parents don't want y'all at home. Y'all mad because the parents won't let y'all be at home. Y'all parents pushed y'all out at 18 and said y'all on your own. And I'm sorry. Sorry to y'all. Sorry. And that's not me shaming. I'm just saying a lot of y'all may be a little jealous. And I'm not even one of them people who think people are jealous of me or none of that. But I feel like a lot of y'all are just mad that y'all don't have that luxury. And I feel that you should. I feel like people should not be forced into positions that they are not ready for. And for me, I have made a lot of strides when it comes to my independence journey, in terms of me getting both of my degrees, in terms of my car. So I have my own car that's in my name, that's paid for by me. Actually, I have October isn't even here yet, and the car is already paid for the month. So I do a very good job about that. I have all my streaming services that I like. I pay for all my trips that I go to. So I am making tremendous strides, and I like to pat myself on the back for that, because there was a time where I wasn't doing all of that. And now that I am, and I think for one of the things about goal setting and independence is setting realistic goals. Setting realistic goals and really working towards achieving those. So we're going to take one more break, And we'll be right back with some more of my goals and how I'm going to get there. And we're going to give you some more inspirational gems. This is Deldrin Autry. This is Let Me Tell You Something. All right, we are back with more of Let Me Tell You Something. I am Deldrin Autry. So I talked about, having my own money and all that. So as far as I've always struggled with getting a job. And I've only really had maybe 5 jobs, 2 of them at the same place. And I've always struggled with employment, not because I'm not a hard worker, just because, I don't know. I think, the one thing is I didn't work. Excuse me. A lot of people start working when they are a teenager. So I did not work really when I was in high school or when I went to college. I just simply went to school. Like college and school was my job. And I took it very seriously. You don't make the kind of grades that I was making going to college just by, halfway doing stuff. So that was my job. But I did attempt to get jobs at various points. I tried to work at, the grocery store and the movie theater, and I put in applications. And I feel like the job market really be hating because they want you to have all this experience. It's like, how am I going to have all this experience when, in order to get a job, you got to have experience. But in order to have experience, you got to have a job. So it's like this weird cycle of you're not getting a job. And so I didn't really get my first job until I think after I graduated. I worked in the mental health field. I've been in the mental health field twice, working with adults and children, and that was a really rewarding experience. And I've always had jobs that work with the public. And that's also made me feel insecure because it's made me have a very unstable relationship with money. Because while not having a job didn't stop me from doing nothing, to keep still, being here and there, now that I have my own money, I have this financial insecurity of anytime I make a big purchase, I feel uneasy. And I feel like it's not that I was ever poor or I come from poverty or anything like that. It's just like, now that I'm making my own money, I've always been cognizant of how much things cost. I've never been one of those people who's like, in the words of the Queen, Nicki Minaj, who looks at the price tag. I have never been one of those people, but I'm just very cognizant of how things cost. And so when I make big purchases, when I spend a lot of money, I get a little uneasy. But then I also have to tell myself, like, you work hard for your money. You work hard for your money. You put in the hours. And what is the point of working hard for your money if you're not going to enjoy it? And so that's what I've had to really tell myself when it comes to spending money. And I want to be generous because there's been people who've been generous with me. And sometimes I struggle with being generous, not because I'm not a generous person, it's because I have that financial insecurity of where I feel like I'm just going to run out of money and I'm just not going to have any money. I'm just going to not be able to do the things that I want to do or, help people I want to help or anything like that. And it's been a struggle, but I've gotten better. I've continued to try my best to work on strengthening my relationship to money in a healthy way because money is the root of all evil, and I don't want to be one of them people who is ruled by money. I want to have a good, healthy relationship with money. I want to be able to enjoy my money and make my money work for me. But I also know that you have to be responsible. I do love to go on trips and concerts and all that, but you also have to be responsible with your money. So for all my people striving for independence, make sure you are saving. Make sure you are saving. Make sure you are enjoying your money, but also make sure you are smart. Make sure that you are putting away money for necessities in terms of your bills. And, I know it can be hard to save, especially in this economy when people are not able to make ends meet. And I feel like, my heart really goes out to people who there is no way that we are living in quote unquote the richest country, the country that everyone wants to be in, and people are not able to make ends meet. And that is something that that is a hill that I will die on every single time. There is no reason why people should be working 2-3 jobs and not be able to pay their bills. You should be able to work one job and be able to support yourself. Everyone should be able to work and have a livable wage, and that should not be a controversial opinion. It doesn't matter if, you need to get the right job or you need to go to school and all that. If you are living and breathing, you should be able to live a comfortable life. And that doesn't mean being wealthy. That doesn't mean being luxurious. It just means that you should not have to worry about where your next meal is coming from, where you lay your head at night. And that is a hill and something that I will always stand for. Now, I didn't mean to get on that tangent. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, yeah, about money. So, yeah, I need to work. I've been slowly working on nurturing my relationship to money and making sure that I am able to have a healthy relationship with my money and, enjoy my hard work, because I work really hard for the money that I have, and I want to be able to enjoy that. I want to be able to share that with the people who have shared their money with me. So let me check my points, make sure that I hit everything that I want to hit. I did want to touch upon this, going back to the point I made about living at home with your parents. I feel like dudes get a harder rap about living at home with their parents than I feel like women do, because I feel like, men are supposed to be the providers, men are supposed to be this and that. And I just want to say, men, it's absolutely okay and doesn't make you any less of a man to live at home with your mama or your dad or whatever, because there are people who are out here struggling, who are out here trying to make things. If you have a vision, you have a plan, and you are working hard at your goals, don't let nobody shame you. And for people saying, oh, you should have it all figured out, don't nobody got it all figured out. People love to sit up here and floss on the internet and act like they got it all figured out. They don't. People will be sitting up here driving a Mercedes but living on an air mattress. So don't let these people gas you and goop you and have you thinking that you are doing less than what you need to do. You are doing what you need to do to survive. And I don't ever want you to feel like you're not doing enough. I know for me, I am not where I want to be, but I also am not where I used to be. And I'm going to leave you with that. We're going to keep striving, keep living, keep loving. And I will catch y'all next time on Let Me Tell You Something. This is Bloody Nautry. Bye.